Shenyang is a Chinese city that has a population roughly the same as London's, yet you may have never heard of it. The city has a rich history, so here I am in Beiling Park to start discovering it. The park is home to the Zhaoling tomb, which is the mausoleum of the Emperor Huang Taiji, founder of the Qing dynasty. The Qing dynasty was the final imperial dynasty in China, and it was founded by the Manchus, which is the name that Huang Taiji renamed his people in 1635. The mausoleum began being built in 1643, the same year that Huang Taiji was laid to rest here. It covers an area of 160,000 square meters and has 38 ancient buildings. These include gate towers and a 6-meter high wall surrounding the main area, which is built so that defenders could protect the several pavilions inside, as well as at the back of the complex, where the wall forms a semicircle surrounding what they call Treasure City, or the Underground Palace. It's a 7-meter high mounded tomb covering treasures of the emperor. It has a circumference of around 110 meters. The emperor and his wife are also buried under the mound. I then walked down through the park, which is called Beiling Park because Beiling translates as Northern Tomb. Here I walked past a statue of the Emperor Huang Taiji, and at the entrance there was a large Qing-style gate. After this, I headed into the city centre to Zhongshan Square, where there is this statue of Mao Zedong. It's named Long Live the Victory of Mao Zedong Thought, which refers to Maoism. The statue is 9 meters tall, as is the base, so 18 meters in total. The base has a number of statues of soldiers and workers, all supporting Mao's revolution, literally and metaphorically.
Quick dinner review. We've got beef, mushrooms, onions, hot stew. Got my candle in there, bubbling away. Rice, seaweed, pickled spicy veg. Winning combo.
After splitting my trip up to visit Dandong, I returned back to Shenyang and visited the Mukden Palace, also known as Shenyang Imperial Palace. It was built by Nurhaci, the father of Emperor Huang Taiji. The palace is the birthplace of the Qing dynasty. In 1616, Nurhaci established the later Jin dynasty, when he unified the Jurchen tribes of northeast China. 9 years later, he made Shenyang the capital of the empire and began to build his palace here. Next year, in 1626, Nurhaci died from wounds suffered in a battle against the Ming dynasty armies who were working with the Portuguese. Huang Taiji succeeded him and continued to build the palace. However, since Huang Taiji then changed the title of the dynasty to Qing, thereafter the Shenyang Imperial Palace was the secondary palace in the Qing dynasty. The palace comprises over 100 buildings and covers 60,000 square meters. Near the palace is Marshal Zhang's mansion, the former residence of the self-proclaimed Grand Marshal Zhang Zhaoling, a warlord who controlled northeast China in the 1920s after the Qing dynasty, and his eldest son, Zhang Shuiliang, who claimed northeast China after his father's murder by the Japanese army in 1928. I then explored the oldest shopping street in Shenyang, Zhongjie, or Middle Street. There were lots of interesting and brightly coloured buildings around this area, as well as plenty of places to grab lunch, which is indeed what I did. Unfortunately, the footage of the lovely food that I had is deleted forever. In the afternoon, I went to the September 18th Historical Museum, which commemorates the Mukden incident. On September 18th, 1931, the Kwantung Army of Japan blew up a section of the Japanese-built South Manchuria Railway in suburban Shenyang and blamed the Chinese forces. This false flag operation meant the Japanese then invaded and captured Shenyang, then known by its Manchu name Mukden, hence the Mukden incident. After this, the Japanese occupied the rest of northeast China and formed the puppet state of Manchukuo until 14 years later when they surrendered at the end of the Second World War. I then made my way down to the Shenyang Olympic Sports Center Stadium, which hosted football matches at the 2008 Beijing Olympics. I wasn't expecting the stadium to be open, But oddly, there was some sort of medical conference happening around the outside of it, and the security were clearly just letting in any old person who showed up at the door, including me. So yeah, I unexpectedly found myself inside an empty 60,000-seater stadium. Not too bad. The stadium is home to Shenyang Urban Football Club, who compete in the Chinese 2nd Division.
Some medal podium flagpoles. Turf could do with a mow.
In the evening, I headed down to the nearby riverside.
It's like a theme park. And then over here, look at that. Wonder what that is.
I found this little night market where I had a dinner of barbecued muscled bullfrog, followed by these cute chocolate and custard filled happy egg cakes. I walked up back towards the stadium, which was now illuminated in lots of different colours. No wonder they nicknamed it the Crystal Crown. On the morning of Labour Day, I headed for my second mausoleum of the trip, the Fuling Mausoleum. To get there, you must walk up the Sacred Way, at the end of which is a 108-step stairway. Remember Nahachi, Huang Taiji's father who built the Imperial Palace? This is his tomb, and he was buried there in 1636. It was built between 1629 and 1651, and contains 32 buildings in an area of around 200,000 square metres. As you can see, the architecture and the layout is very similar to the Zhaoling mausoleum. The high stone wall and towers in the corners for defending against raiders, which surround the central buildings in what is called the Square Castle. At the back, again, not pictured unfortunately, was another huge treasure mound surrounded by a semicircular wall. This is where Nahachi and his wife are buried, alongside heaps and heaps of their treasures. I walked down the stairs and walked into Dongling Park, which surrounds the tomb and translates as Eastern Tomb Park. This archway was built in 1629 and has inscriptions in Manchu, Chinese and Mongolian, which read, "All who pass here must dismount. Those who defy shall be punished by law." Clearly the later Qing Dynasty was a tough place to be if you were a horse rider. As I continued through the park, I found this Buddhist temple, which I believe is called the Bao En Temple. After leaving the park, I took a taxi and metro to the Xinle Relic archaeological site. This is the place where the Xinle civilization, 7,000-year-old Neolithic culture, was first discovered in the 1970s. Here, there is a reconstructed Xinle settlement and a museum with some of the artifacts discovered there.
Time for some lunch. I've got some tea and I've ordered what I think are scallop dumplings. Sounds interesting. This is all their seafood. You can see it's a date tea. Here we go. £5 for scallop dumplings.
After lunch, I sheltered from the rain inside Shenyang Museum, which was a fairly standard city museum, telling you about the long history of the city, as well as a few other special exhibits in there. They even have this 1.9 billion year old meteorite. After a brief look at the Liaoning Grand Theatre and People's Square, which ironically did not have any people there, I took a walk around Qingnian Park, or Youth Park. The tall tower you can see from the park is the Liaoning Radio and TV Tower, which I'd hoped to climb up if there was an observation deck, but unfortunately it didn't seem to be open to the public. The next morning, I'd planned to spend a bit of time at the Museum of Liaoning, but due to it being Labour Day the previous day, the queues when I arrived were just too huge. So instead, I popped next door to the Liaoning Science Technology Hall. Definitely recommend this if this kind of interactive science museum is your sort of thing, and you have a spare hour or so in this part of Shenyang, which is what I did have before I was catching my flight home. I had a free airport lounge pass, so made the most of the free buffet there before